On the grand alien station Verdun Prime, a hall filled with galactic diplomats echoed with strange laughter. On a large screen, an old Earth video played. A man in heavy metal armor, riding a horse, sword in hand. A green-skinned Cartharian general sneered, "What is this madness?" A knight explained the Earth ambassador quietly. A warrior of honor, trained for battle. "Primitive," muttered another diplomat. "Why carry a sword when you can fire plasma from orbit?" They all laughed again. But just as the laughter reached its peak, a blaring alarm filled the station. Distress signal received from Outpost 17. The broadcast shifted to shaky footage. Explosions, soldiers screaming, black smoke pouring from underground tunnels. Then a voice, low and scared. "Unknown intruders. We're losing ground. Security systems offline." The room fell silent. The Cartharian general slammed his fist on the table. "Deploy battlecruisers." "No time," said the ambassador. "Outpost 17 will fall before help arrives." "Then Earth must send its forces," someone said. But instead of calling fleets or activating drone swarms, Earth made a strange choice. They sent one man. Only one. Commander Aaron Blake. He walked into the command hangar wearing silver armor shaped like a knight's crafted from unknown. Medals on his back was a sword taller than his own body. No guns, no tech. Aliens on the station stared in disbelief. "This is your response?" Someone whispered. But Earth's diplomat only said, "He's more than enough." Main plot, Aaron Blake was no ordinary soldier. Trained under Earth's forgotten orders, he belonged to a secret warrior program that studied the oldest forms of combat and fused them with the most advanced materials in the galaxy. His armor, a blend of nanoshielding and ancient Terran steelwork. Sword, a vibration-forged plasma blade wrapped in quantum filament capable of slicing through tank holes. As Blake stepped into the drop shuttle, he said nothing. No speech, no warnings. It's just one word into his communicator. "Ready?" Meanwhile, alien leaders protested. "This is madness," barked the Cartharian. "We don't need theatrics. We need strategy." But Earth's High Council replied, "Strategy is why we trained him." Watch and learn. Outpost 17 hovered near the edge of Sector Zeta, once a peaceful trade post. Now, smoke and fire painted the sky. Cameras caught glimpses of strange enemy shapes, black-skinned beasts with shifting armor and invisible cloaks. They were fast, silent, and deadly. Dozens of guards were already dead. Doors sealed shut. Escape pods jammed. From orbit alone, shuttles screamed down. It landed hard, shaking the ground. Blake stepped out alone. The station's few surviving soldiers stared. "You're the backup?" one asked, bloody and shaking. Blake only nodded. From a distance, the creatures watched him. Then they charged. The soldiers prepared to fire until Blake raised one armored hand. "Don't." Then he drew his sword. The first alien lunged. Blake moved with impossible speed. A flash of silver light and the creature fell in two clean halves. Gasps echoed behind him. The second beast tried to flank him. Blake spun, armor glinting, blade humming with deadly energy. Another clean strike, another body down. He moved like lightning. Every strike was perfect. No wasted motion, no hesitation. The station's cameras streamed the battle live. Every galactic diplomat now watched in silence. No laughter. No mocking. Smiles. Just awe. In a chamber back on Verdun Prime, one alien whispered, "He fights alone. Like the knights in the old stories." Another added, "But faster, smarter, more deadly." The Cartharian general leaned forward, eyes wide. This is not primitive. This is terrifying." And on screen, Blake kept walking deeper. Into the station, into the dark. Into the heart of the enemy. Sword ready, heart calm. And the footage cut out. The screen went black. No signal. No sound. No updates. Galactic Command stared at the blank monitor, frozen. What happened to the feed? Why did it cut off? Is he dead? Inside the Verdun Prime War room, fear crept in. Even the proud Cartharian general didn't speak. Everyone had seen the way Blake moved, the sword, the armor, the precision. But now, silence. Finally, a blinking red light reappeared. One shaky transmission came through. He's still alive. And what followed was unlike anything they'd ever seen. Main plot. Commander Aaron Blake walked deeper into Outpost 17. The hallways were torn apart. Fires crackled behind broken doors. Alien bodies littered the floor, both defenders and attackers. But something was wrong. Blake could sense it. The enemy, the real threat, hadn't shown itself yet. Suddenly, the lights flickered and the air grew cold. His sensors picked up a strange pulse, like a heartbeat echoing through the walls. He wasn't alone. From the shadows, the real invaders came, not the beasts from earlier. These were taller, silent, wearing black bone armor that shimmered like oil. Their eyes glowed deep red, and their hands carried weapons that bent light itself. They were the Myrics, a race never seen before in any galactic database. And now they were watching him. The first Myrics warrior stepped forward. It studied Blake with curiosity, not fear. Blake said nothing. He simply raised his sword. The Myrics moved fast. But Blake was faster. Their blades met in a crash of sparks. The Myrics' weapon bent space, but Blake's sword cut through it like paper. One clean slice, and the creature's arm fell to the floor. Then more of them appeared too. 4, 7. Blake exhaled slowly and charged. He danced between them like wind through trees. Each strike was controlled. Each movement perfect. He used walls, floors, even debris to his advantage. The aliens tried to surround him. They failed. Back on Verdun Prime, the broadcast had returned. Everyone watched. No one spoke. Even the alien children in learning domes across the galaxy were now glued to their holoscreens. The image of a single human in silver armor, glowing sword in hand, moving like a storm, it was poetry in motion. Some began to whisper a name. The Star Knight. Blake continued through the station, disabling enemy command nodes as he moved. He discovered strange markings on the wall's ancient symbols. Written in blood and ash, he paused at one. It read, "This is only the beginning." He pressed forward. Then, in the main reactor chamber, he found at the core. But guarding it stood the Myrics warlord, twice Blake's size, cloaked in shadow, blade like a jagged fang. It spoke in a voice that burned. "You are alone." Blake looked up, calm. "No, I carry the weight of Earth." And he raised his sword. The fight was brutal. The warlord moved like darkness, warping space with every swing. Blake had never fought anything like it. They clashed again and again, sparks flying, walls breaking, fire rising. For the first time, Blake was pushed back. He bled. But he stood firm. Memories flashed in his mind of training in deep mountains, of swords passed down by quiet masters, of promises made to protect the weak. He found his rhythm. And then a final strike. The warlord stumbled. Blake's blade found the heart. Silence. The Myrics leader collapsed in smoke. The station lights returned. Outpost 17 was saved. The last thing Blake said before the feed cut again was, "Tell them, the nightstands." On Verdun Prime, the room was silent. No one expected it. A single human, armed only with a sword, defeated the unknown invaders and saved Outpost 17. The broadcast ended with 6 final words. "Tell them, the night stands." Every species in the Galactic Alliance had one question. What is a night? Main plot. Ambassador Thalvek of the Granari species summoned Earth's representatives. "This isn't science," he hissed. "It's mythology." Dr. Lena Rourke, Earth's cultural envoy, replied calmly, "You call it myth. We call it training. Alien generals reviewed slow-motion footage of Blake's swordplay. They analyzed the armor, the weapon, his movement. "It's impossible," muttered one analyst. "No energy weapons, no neural link, just a man with a blade." But results couldn't be ignored. The Alliance's own forces had failed. The Myrics had wiped out 3 fleets. Blake had cleared an entire station alone. Meanwhile, on the edge of galactic space, Commander Aaron Blake recovered in a field hospital aboard the carrier Solace. Its armor lay beside him, dented and stained. He stared at the ceiling in silence. Captain Marin entered. "They're asking for you." "Who? Everyone?" Blake sat up slowly. "Then it's begun." On a hidden moon, the Galactic Council gathered for an emergency war summit. Rumors of the Nightfall Protocol spread like wildfire. It was an old Earth concept never officially shared with the Alliance, a last resort deployment plan. One night, one sword dropped into enemy territory. No support, no backup, just one purpose: end the threat. "Admiral," Vasa Viandari shouted, "you want us to base our survival on an ancient Earth warrior code?" But others, once skeptical, nodded. One Zarkali commander said, "Let the humans do what humans do best. Fight ... with heart." Back on Solace, Blake walked alone to the hangar. Inside was a small stealth pod coated with adaptive plating, powered by old Earth fusion tech and silent as death. Waiting inside a second night. Her name was Aria Cross. She bowed. Blake nodded. 2 nights, 2 blades, and a new target. The Myrics foraged ship deep inside enemy territory. The mission was madness. They would drop blind, without communication, into a moving fortress the size of a small planet. No scans, no maps, only instinct. But Arya smiled. "We trained for this, remember?" Blake checked his blade. "Then we finish it." As the pod launched into the Black Earth broadcast, one final encrypted message across galactic channels. A single sentence in old Terran tongue: "When darkness rises, so do we." The stealth pod drifted through enemy space like a ghost. No lights, no signal, no sound. Commander Aaron Blake and Arya Cross stood side by side, their armored forms bathed in darkness. Ahead of them was the Myrics forged ship, a massive floating machine world, pulsing with red veins of power. It looked like a broken moon stitched back together with metal and fire. "Once we enter," Blake said, "there's no turning back." Arya grinned under her helmet. "Good. I'm tired of running." The pod pierced the outer hull silently. The knights vanished into the dark. Main plot inside the forged ship was alive. Metal walls shifted, pipes breathed. The floor pulsed under their feet like muscle. Blake and Arya moved through black corridors, their swords drawn, sensors silent. The air buzzed with something strange, like electricity mixed with fear. Suddenly movement, a Myrics warrior lunged out of a wall panel, hissing. But Blake was faster. Its blade sliced through its armored head like silk. "Hey!" No energy, no bullets. Just steel, skill, and speed. Arya whispered, "They're adapting." She pointed to the ceiling spike, like cameras twisting to follow them. "They're studying us," Blake said. And then the doors sealed behind them. Back on Verdun Prime, the Galactic Council watched in silence. The humans had shared only partial footage, but the little they saw made some of the most advanced alien races uncomfortable. A being from the Severi race said quietly, "We've never seen anything like this. It's not just combat, it's ... emotion." "They're not fighting to win," a Zarkali warlord added. "They're fighting like it's personal." Back on the ship, Blake and Arya reached the inner chambers. Thousands of Myrics warriors were growing in vats, connected by thick wires and strange fluid. They weren't just soldiers, they were clones, programmed with memories and tactics stolen from fallen enemies. Blake stared at the tanks. "They're copying us." Arya smashed one of the tanks with her sword. The liquid hissed as it spilled. Out, inside, a half-formed humanoid knight floated in silence. "They're trying to build their own version of us," she said. "Clones of Terran knights." A deep growl echoed through the chamber. From the far end, a massive figure stepped forward, 10 feet tall, armored, sword in hand. It looked like Blake. No, it was Blake Copid, twisted, Myrixborn. "This is their prototype," Arya whispered. "Their fake knight." The clone attacked. The duel was brutal. Steel clashed with steel. Sparks flew. Blake was faster, but the clone was stronger. Arya tried to help, but more Myrix warriors poured in. She shouted, "We're outnumbered." Blake slammed the clone into a wall. "You get to the core," he ordered. "I'll hold them. You won't survive. I don't have to." With a final nod, Arya sprinted down the corridor, sword flashing. Blake turned to face the clone. 2 knights, 1 real, 1 fake. Only one would walk away. The alarms inside the forge ship screamed like a dying animal. Arya Cross ran down a twisting corridor, blood on her sword, fire behind her. Every step echoed through the living ship like a war drum. Behind her, Commander Aaron Blake fought alone, holding back an army of Myrix soldiers. And the monstrous clone that looked exactly like him. She didn't look back. She couldn't. The mission wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about stopping the enemy for good. And the heart of the forge ship, the core, was just ahead. Main plot: Blake's battle was chaos. The clone moved like him, struck like him, even thought like him. But it wasn't him. It didn't have his pain, his memories, his purpose. "Tell me," Blake growled, dodging a blade strike. "Do you even know why you're fighting?" The clone said nothing, just attacked. Harder. Behind them, piles of broken Myrix drones sparked and twitched. Blake was slowing down, bleeding, bruised. But his grip on the sword stayed tight. He wasn't fighting just to win. He was fighting to remind the galaxy what a real knight was. Meanwhile, Arya reached the core. It was massive, a spinning red sphere of energy surrounded by black vines and glowing alien runes. The power was pulsing, alive, angry. A voice echoed through the chamber. "You are too late," it hissed. From the shadows, an alien figure stepped out, thin, tall, made of shifting metal. "I am Forge Prime," it said. "The one who builds the future." Arya pointed her sword. "Not this future." Forge Prime laughed. "You cannot destroy what you do not understand." "I don't need to understand it," she said, stepping forward. "I just need to end it." They charged. The duel was strange. Forge Prime didn't use weapons. To change shape, growing blades from its arms, claws from its back. Arya had trained with monsters, but this was something new. Every hit she landed was countered by something unpredictable. Every slash she made seemed to be already predicted. "You fight well for something so simple," Forge Prime said. Arya was bleeding now, panting. "You think being complex makes you strong?" She reached into her armor and pulled out a small glowing cube. Forge Prime tilted its head. "What is that?" "A gift from Earth." She slammed it into the control panel. Back in the hallway, Blake was losing ground. The clone knocked him down, sword aimed at his heart. But Blake didn't flinch. "Do it," he whispered. "Finish it." The clone hesitated. It saw something in Blake's eyes, something it didn't understand. Not fear, not pain. Something deeper. Blake used that second. With a final burst of strength, he rolled, twisted, and drove his sword up through the clone's chest. Steel tore through flesh and circuits. The fake knight collapsed, lifeless. Blake stood, barely. And then he heard it, boom. A deep rumble from the ship's center. Arya's cube had worked. The core began to destabilize. Sparks rained down. Pipes burst. Forge Prime screamed, glitching. What have you done? You copied everything about us, Arya said, backing away, but you missed one thing. What? Our will to sacrifice. She ran, the core exploded. Blake felt the shockwave. Walls shook. Flames rose. He staggered through collapsing corridors, searching for Arya. He found her wounded but alive, dragging herself from the rubble. She looked up, smiling. Thought I'd leave without you. He helped her up. Together, they ran. The knights made it to the hangar just as the Forge ship began to fall apart. Their escape pod launched into space, spinning away from the firestorm behind them. From the Galactic Council's station, everyone watched the explosion through the giant viewing screen. As our Kali ambassador whispered, they did it. A Savari diplomat nodded slowly. The Knights of Earth. Ah. And in that moment, the galaxy understood. It wasn't just the armor. It wasn't the sword. It was the spirit. The escape pod drifted through space, silent, cold, and half-broken. Inside, Commander Aaron Blake was barely breathing. Arya Cross sat beside him, holding pressure on a deep wound across his ribs. "Stay with me," she whispered. He smiled weakly. "Did we win?" A long pause. She looked out the cracked window. Behind them, the Forge ship was gone, just glowing. Pieces floating like stars. "Yeah," she said. "We won." But then, the pod's lights turned red. Something was coming. Main plot in the control room of the Galactic Council. Alarms sounded again. A fleet was approaching, not human, not Mirrex, something worse. A forgotten branch of the Forge ships that didn't answer the destruction call. The AI clones inside were still active, still hungry. The Council panicked. "Our fleets are too far away. We need time." Then someone said it. Send the Knights. A diplomat protested, but they'd just survived the last mission. "Blake is wounded. He may not survive space again." But Blake's voice crackled through a weak transmission. "You don't call a knight unless you need the impossible." The final battle begins inside a small human battlecruiser, barely repaired. Blake and Arya prepared for one last mission. Arya strapped on her armor. "You can barely stand." Blake picked up his sword, his body shaking. "I don't need to stand." He looked at the holomap. Dozens of Forge ships were closing in on Verdun Prime. "We'll intercept here," he said, pointing. One ship against a fleet. "Suicide?" Arya whispered. Blake nodded. "Yeah, but they launched anyway." The stars lit up with war. The human cruiser, fast and deadly, darted between Forge ship slicing engines, planting bombs, breaking their formation. Inside the bridge, Blake guided the attacks while Arya fired the weapons. Together, they danced through death. But it wasn't enough. The enemy ships regrouped. Flagship aimed its main cannon at Verdun Prime. The countdown began. 10, 9, 8, Blake took a deep breath. He opened the hatch, stepped outside, and launched himself into space. Night without gravity, with his armor sealed and sword glowing. Blake used magnetic boots to land on the hull of the enemy ship. No oxygen, no gravity. Just him, and 100 enemy drones crawling out to meet him. He stood tall, one against many. They charged. He moved like a storm, cutting, dodging, striking. Every move was precise, every blow was final. And yet, there were too many. His armor cracked. His arm bled. His vision blurred. But he did not fall. Because a knight doesn't fall. Arya screamed through the radio, "Blake, get out of there!" But Blake didn't answer. Instead, he reached the reactor core of the enemy ship. He attached the last explosive and whispered, "For Earth, for the galaxy, for the code." He closed his eyes and pressed the trigger. Silence from Verdun Prime. The people watched as the flagship exploded in a brilliant light. All other Forge ships deactivated. The war was over. In the control room, leaders stood in silence. Then someone began to clap. Soon, the whole council was on its feet, clapping, cheering, crying, not for victory, but for honor. Epilogue. Weeks later, a statue was built on Earth. It stood tall in a garden under the star's armor shining, sword pointed down in peace. The plaque read, Commander Aaron Blake. The last night he showed them what one human soul could do. And across the stars, wherever the light of Earth reached, others whispered stories of the night. Of the human who reminded the galaxy that courage is not in machines, that strength is not in weapons, that hope wears armor. The end.